Hello students, let us start the analog electronic circuits class. In the last class, we were discussing this Shockley's equation. The reason for Shockley's equation is that in BJT, we have the factor beta, whereas in JFET, if we have to deduce the relationship between input and output, as we have no gate current in case of MOSFET, it is now very difficult to deduce such a relationship. So one scientist called William Shockley has developed this beautiful equation, and in the last class I had told you that you will have to keep on chanting this formula and you have to keep on memorizing this formula. ID equals IDSS into 1 minus VGS by VP whole squared. You will have to remember this formula. And I had told you the derivation of this formula is beyond the scope of our syllabus, but we are going to use this formula extensively in this module now. Now the same formula can be slightly rewritten in terms of VGS itself, which you can see now. VGS equals VP into 1 minus square root of ID by IDSS. It is the same upper formula, which is slightly rewritten in a different way, so that at the LHS we have VGS, because in the upper equation at the LHS we have ID. Both are Shockley's equation only, stated in different ways. So using this now, we can come to a relationship of VGS and ID, because VP and IDSS are going to be given by the manufacturer himself. In the last class I had told you how did we plot this particular transfer curve, which is at the left hand side, by the corresponding values of VGS as well as ID. That is why we have this non-linear transfer curve. Now you can find out here in this particular curve that when IDSS is maximum, actually IDSS itself is maximum. If I have to say that when ID is at its maximum value, VGS is 0, and when VGS is at VP, ID is 0. So when ID is maximum, JFET is completely on and it is in the ohmic region, and when VGS is at VP, JFET is completely off and it is in the cutoff region. Now what about the region in between? Can we deduce some minor relationships here also? Because we know that this VP and IDSS are constant. If VP and IDSS are constant, can we have a distinct relationship between VGS and ID? That is the question. Now we can observe this curve. If you observe this curve, IDSS is 8 milliampere. What about at 4 milliampere? When ID is half of IDSS, what is the value of VGS? That you can try to relate. Now similarly, when ID is at 25% of IDSS, let us say ID is at 2 milliampere. What is the value of VGS? Now you can see here directly that when ID is IDSS by 4, then VGS is VP by 2. That you can directly see here. See, when ID is IDSS by 4, that means when ID is 2 milliampere, VGS is VP by 2. This way, we can deduce some other relationships only using VGS and ID. So, I am going to show you this now. You can see when VGS is 0, ID is IDSS. When VGS is VP, ID is 0. Whereas, when VGS is 0.3 VP, ID is IDSS by 2. When VGS is 0.5 VP, ID is IDSS by 4. This is what I told you now. See, when VGS is 0.5 VP, ID is IDSS by 4. Which means when VGS is minus 2 volts, ID is 2 milliampere. Let us say when VGS is 0.3 VP, ID is IDSS by 2. 0.3 VP, 0.3 into 4 is around 1.2 volts. When VGS is around minus 1.2 volts, ID is IDSS by 2 corresponding to this 4 milliampere. We can have VGS is 0.3 Vp. Now we can remember these relationships. You can always remember when ID is maximum, VGS is 0, and when ID is 0, VGS is Vp. This you can directly recall. Now when ID is IDSS by 2, VGS is 0.3 Vp, and when ID is IDSS by 4, VGS is 0.5 Vp. This also you can remember. Now these characteristics are going to help us in future in going to arrive at the quiescent point for the JFET. As I have told you, we don't have beta here. So later on we will have to go for graphical method of obtaining the quiescent point. For that purpose, these points are going to help us. Let me go to the next slide. Let us have an exercise based on whatever we have learned. You can see two kids are having a physical exercise. Now let us have a mental exercise, which means I'm going to show you an exercise now. I'll give you some time and I'll show you the previous slide also. Based on the previous slide's data, you tell me the values. The exercise is this. Sketch the transfer curve for an N-channel FET that has IDSS equals 12 milliamperes and Vp equals minus 6 volts. It is given IDSS is 12 milliampere, Vp equals minus 6 volts. Students, please note this down. What is Vp? Vp is pinch off voltage. Vp is pinch off voltage at which there is a overlapping of the depletion region. This I had discussed so many times in the previous classes. Recall all the discussions of the previous class. Okay. Now, note down Vp is minus 6 volts, IDSS is 12 milliampere. Now, you know that when VGS is 0.3 Vp, ID is IDSS by 2. And when VGS is 0.5 Vp, ID is IDSS by 4. So, correspondingly, you find out those 2 points and put the answer in the chat box. When Vp is 0.3 Vp, you already know that ID is IDSS by 2. And when VGS is 0.5 Vp, ID is IDSS by 4. So, you compute those two values and put the answer in the chat box for 0.3 Vp and 0.5 Vp. It is such a simple calculation, but nobody is giving me an answer. Yes, correct. When VGS is 0.3 Vp, that means when VGS is around minus 1.8 volts, ID is 6 milliampere. You need not be so accurate there as 5.88 milliampere. I think you applied the Shockley's equation. Not that way. We had graphically seen that, right? So when VGS is minus 1.8 volts, ID is 6 milliampere. What about when VGS is minus 3 volts? Correct. When VGS is minus 3 volts, ID is 3 milliampere. Naturally, because it is IDSS by 4. So now based on these two, we have 4 points for the transfer curve now. Now using these 4 points, we can plot the transfer curve on our own. So the solution is, you can see this tabular column here. When VGS is 0 volts, ID is maximum, that is 12 milliampere. And when VGS is 0.3 Vp, that means it is at minus 1.8 volts, ID is 6 milliampere, that is IDSS by 2. And when VGS is Vp by 2, 0.5 Vp, then ID is IDSS by 4, that is 3 milliampere. Now lastly, when VGS is minus 6 volts, that means when VGS is equal to pinch off voltage, ID is 0 milliampere. Now using these 4 points, 4 coordinates, we can plot the transfer curve. You can see the transfer curve here. I have taken this curve directly from the textbook because if I plot it manually, it may look somewhat awkward. So I have taken this image from the textbook and I have put it. But for any given problem like this, we can approximately plot the transfer curve. Once we plot the transfer curve like this, we can gradually find out the value of ID for any given VGS, and we can actually find out the quiescent point also. So basically we need at least these 4 points for plotting the transfer curve. So once again I will repeat, you remember when VGS is 0, ID equals IDSS. When VGS is Vp, ID equals 0. But when VGS is 0.3 Vp, ID is IDSS by 2. And when VGS is 0.5 Vp, ID is IDSS by 4. That is evident here in this graph as well. Now, let me continue to the next part where we discuss about FET biasing. Okay, you're able to see this particular slide where we are discussing, from now on we are going to discuss FET biasing. You can see this picture where we have a N-type channel and we have a P-type gate. P-type gate surrounds the N-type channel and we have this drain and source. Unlike I showed you the earlier picture where drain was taken at the right side and source was taken at the left side, here the FET is shown as a planar device. Earlier I showed you a diagram where I showed you as a cylindrical device. Now it's a planar device where gate, source, drain all can be at one surface, that means at the upper surface. Below there can be N channel. We can take the terminal of drain at the right hand side and the source at the left hand side. Even now they remain interchangeable. Even when we take source and drain here, the terminals remain interchangeable because technically and physically they are of the same type. Now you can see the joining of the depletion region or the expansion of the depletion region near the drain. That is because the drain side is reverse biased. N-type is connected to plus and gate is anyhow going to be given with the negative voltage. As I told you, if it is normally on, we are going to turn it off by applying negative gate voltage to the gate. With this brief revision, let me proceed for the FET's biasing. Introduction. For the field effect transistor, the relationship between input and output quantity is non-linear due to the squared term in the Shockley's equation. You know that in any equation, if there is no square term or cube term or fourth power, then we know that the equation is linear. For example, y equals mx plus c is a linear equation where there is no square term. Any equation which contains a square term is gradually going to be non-linear. So that way all quadratic equations are non-linear. Now the Shockley's equation is containing a square term. So naturally the relationship between input and output is non-linear, that we have seen already in the previous exercises. The nonlinear relationship between ID and VGS can complicate the mathematical approach to the DC analysis of FET configurations. The reason is, for setting the Q point or for finding the Q point, we require distinct DC quantities. But when we have the square term in the Shockley's equation, it may not be so easy for us to arrive at the Q point because of the quadratic terms. So, the mathematical approach may complicate in future when we have different types of biasing circuits. Just like in BJT, we had 3 types of biasing circuits: base bias, emitter bias, and voltage divider bias. Even in JFET, we will have similar biasing circuits. So, the nonlinear relationship may complicate our approach. Now, the solution is what? Solution is go for the graphical approach. We had already seen the graphical approach where we can plot a transfer curve on our own, taking the 4 points. Now, using that graph, we can easily arrive at the VGS versus ID, and correspondingly we can find out VDS as well. So that way, in case of JFET or even in case of MOSFET, the graphical approach helps us a lot compared to the mathematical approach. But the problem now is, because of the graphical approach, there can be minor errors in the calculations. Now that is the price which we pay for that. When we want the approach to be easier, naturally accuracy cannot be considered there. If we want complete accuracy, then we have to go for a mathematical approach, even though it is complicated. So a graphical approach may limit solutions in accuracy, but it is a quicker method for most FET amplifiers. We use graphical solutions rather than mathematical solutions, as the formers are easier. The graphical solutions are easier compared to mathematical solutions. That is why we worked out an exercise now about how to plot the transfer curve. The general relationships that can be applied to the DC analysis of all FET amplifiers are: IG equals 0 ampere. Gate current is always 0. Even though the gate current may be in the order of picoamperes or femtoamperes or attoamperes or zeptoamperes or yoctoamperes. Because whenever you apply a DC voltage, there can be a minute amount of current flowing, because at least there are minority carriers there in the semiconductor. But for all our practical purposes, we are going to presume that gate current is always 0. We are not going to consider that minute current as well. And due to this reason, we will always consider drain current equals source current, unlike the BJT. In the BJT, we used to take IE equals IC plus IB. But here, as IG is 0, we will consider ID equals IS. For JFETs, Shockley's equation is applied to relate input and output quantities. That Shockley's equation, again I am reproducing here: ID equals IDSS into 1 minus VGS by BP whole squared. This we will keep on seeing, so that the more you see, the more you will remember. And the more I speak about it, the more you will remember. So I will speak once again: ID equals IDSS into 1 minus VGS by BP whole squared. Let us see the very first biasing configuration, called fixed bias configuration in case of JFET. The same thing was called as base bias in BJT. Now this is the fixed bias. There is a JFET here. I had already told you about the symbol now. Now when the gate arrow is towards the channel, it is an N-channel MOSFET. Why? Because the gate is of P-type, channel is of N-type. This indicates the diode which is between gate and channel. The arrow mark itself indicates the direction of the diode. So that way, you now know that this is an N-channel MOSFET. For the N-channel MOSFET, always the drain is connected to positive supply. And we have a drain resistance there. Naturally, we need a drain resistance there. Otherwise, when the switch turns on, supply voltage should not get connected to ground. You are already familiar with this usage of RD. In BJT, we used RC, collector resistance. In JFET, we use RD, drain resistance. Now you are already familiar with this C1 and C2. C1 is called as the blocking capacitor. C2 is called as the coupling capacitor. Both are going to permit only the passage of the AC, and DC will be prevented through the capacitors. Now, in BJT, we used to connect one resistor to the base and we used to connect it to the power supply itself in case of fixed bias, because we wanted to derive the base current from the power supply. Now, as in JFET, there is no gate current. There is no need to connect any resistor from gate to the power supply. Actually, JFET is a voltage control device. So, we have to apply a voltage now. That voltage here is mentioned as VGG. As source is grounded, we can also call it as VGS now. VGS and VGG are one and the same. This is only a terminology. Just like in BJT we had VCC and VBB. Here we are using VDD and VGG. Now, as you know, to the gate we have to connect a negative voltage for preventing the transistor to remain in complete on condition. Now, the complete on condition of the JFET is called as the ohmic region, and the half on condition is called as the saturation region. Please remember this again. The half on condition in BJT was called as active region, but the half on condition in JFET is called as saturation region. You have to be very clear with these terminologies. Now, we want JFET to work as an amplifier. If we want to make the JFET to work as an amplifier, we have to keep it in half on region now. That means we have to keep this JFET in the saturation region now. That is where we have to apply a negative gate voltage to the gate so that the transistor will gradually turn off. Otherwise, it is normally always fully on. That is the purpose of applying this negative gate voltage. Now, I want some of you to think why this RG is there. Even though gate current is not there, what is the reason we have to connect this RG here? I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes time. I want my listeners to think about the need for RG and let me know. You can put your answer in the chat box. To protect VGG? No. Why we should protect VGG? VGG will not have any issue there because the gate voltage is connected to the gate. There is no current going to flow from gate to source, right? And again, VGG supply cannot go to the left side also, towards input also, because there is a capacitor there. So, because of this capacitor, DC current cannot flow either to the left side or to the right side. So, that way, there is no need to protect VGG. That is not the answer. I want some other answer. Is it because we need to ensure that input enters the gate? Correct. Give some claps to Sayan now. All the people who listeners. Here Nisha madam is also clapping now. Appreciating Sayan. That is correct. See, if this RG is not connected, then the inputs will be absorbed by this power supply itself. Remember the AC ground concept? In the AC ground concept, when AC comes to even to power supply work like a large capacitor value. So then, if I apply input here, if this RG is not there, if VGG is directly connected here, then all the signal will directly go to the DC battery itself. Even though if it is negative terminal is connected, this DC supply will never allow the gate voltage to vary. Whenever AC and DC are together, it is always DC which is going to be powerful. Why? Because DC is constant, AC is varying. Any variation in AC and DC together is not going to cause any variation at all. That is because DC is going to be stable. For example, visualize the ocean as DC voltage and visualize the river waters as AC. In the river waters, you will see the stream of water will be flowing towards the ocean. Now, the river water can have different levels, whereas the ocean water will have the same level. How much ever waters from the rivers will join into the ocean's level is not going to change. In the same way, when AC and DC are together, DC only will remain, AC will not remain. Now, but what we want is, we want this JFET to work as an amplifier. So when we apply an AC signal, we want it to be amplified, and we want the amplified output to be available in the drain. That is why we need this RG. That is the purpose. So fixed bias configuration can be solved just as directly using either a mathematical or a graphical approach. This circuit is a simple circuit. We can directly apply a mathematical approach as well here. I am going to show you that. Or we can use a graphical approach also. The coupling capacitors are open circuits for the DC analysis. This we already know. For all the DC purposes, we can simply replace the coupling capacitors with open circuit, because we are going to perform the DC analysis now. Later on, we are going to perform the AC analysis also for the JFETs. The resistor RG is present to ensure that Vi appears at the input to the FET amplifier for the AC analysis. Otherwise, this Vi may be absorbed by the power supply itself, as I told you. So now let us proceed with the fixed bias configuration. Now for the DC analysis, Ig is 0 amperes, VRG equals IGRG. So VRG is 0, which means across this RG, across this gate resistor, there will not be any voltage drop. We have connected this gate resistor only for the input to get into the gate. Otherwise, the input signal will be absorbed by the gate voltage. But as such, there is no DC current flowing through the RG. So the voltage drop across RG is going to be 0. When the voltage drop across RG is going to be 0, whatever is the VGG, that is going to be available at gate. That is the conclusion there. So now, as Ig is 0 amperes, VRG equals IGRG. Ig is 0, so IGRG is 0 volts. Now the 0 volt drop across RG permits replacing RG by a short circuit equivalent as appearing the network. Now that resistor can be replaced by a short circuit, and the capacitors can be replaced by a open circuit for the DC analysis. So that way you can see the circuit now. The resistor is replaced by a short circuit because there is no drop across it. But VGG is coming to the gate, and the capacitors are replaced by open circuit. Let me admit the students who are waiting in the lobby. Okay. Now this is the DC equivalent circuit for the fixed bias configuration. Now just by looking at this, we can directly write some expressions. VGS equals minus VGG. We can directly write it. So applying KVL at the input side, applying KVL, minus VGG minus VGS equals 0. See, whenever you go from plus to minus, we have a convention to use minus. Again, gate to source we are going plus to minus. We presume that there is a voltage drop across gate to source. So again we put a minus symbol. Only when we go from minus to plus, we use a positive symbol. So that way VGS equals minus VGG. Now applying KVL at the output loop, totally it is VDD is positive here. So we are going from negative to positive when we apply KVL at the output side. So VDD minus IDRD minus VDS is going to be 0. VDD minus IDRD minus VDS is going to be 0. I am again putting that Shockley's equation here. ID is IDSS into 1 minus VGS by VP whole squared. Now, in this expression, we can apply this VGS as well. We can replace VGS as minus VGG, and the same circuit is reproduced here. Applying KVL at the output side, we can have plus VDS plus IDRD minus VDD equals 0. This is one way. Another way we can write, that is VDD minus IDRD minus VDS equals 0. Just like we applied KVL in case of BJT, we can apply in the same way. This equation is looking like this because in the textbook he used this particular method. Both are one and the same. Only LHS, RHS are of different sign. So that way VDS is VDD minus IDRD. Total voltage across the output side is VDD, and there is drop across the RD, that is IDRD. So VDS is VDD minus IDRD. VS is 0 volts, source voltage is anyhow 0 volts because source is connected to ground. Now, VDS equals VD minus VS. Conventionally, when we say drain to source, with respect to ground, the voltage at the drain, and with respect to ground, voltage at the source. But now, as source itself is grounded, that VDS is VD minus VS has no meaning as such. So VD, the voltage at the drain is VDS plus VS or VDS plus 0 volts. So VD is nothing but VDS itself. Even though these are all additional expressions, the meaning is really very simple here. Source is grounded, so VDS equals VD itself. That just by the observation of the circuit itself we can find out. So VGS is again VG minus VS. VGS is VGS plus VS based on the upper expression. But again VS is 0, so VG is VGS itself. The gate voltage is gate to source voltage itself. That was the mathematical analysis. Till now whatever we did was the mathematical analysis of the fixed bias, which is quite easy. We actually did not use the Shockley's equation at all, because we could easily apply KVL at the input, we could easily apply KVL at the output. Now, for proceeding with the graphical analysis, we already know these points. We can get 4 points of the transfer curve, then we can join them. So, a graphical analysis would require a plot of the Shockley's equation. Now, this is that plot. We already know that when VGS is VP by 2, we have ID is IDSS by 4. Similarly, when VGS is VP by 4, we have ID is, when ID is IDSS by 2, we have VGS is 0.3 VP. So, we can easily get 4 points. The fixed level of VGS has been superimposed as a vertical line at VGSQ equals minus VGG. Now, the gate voltage is a fixed voltage. Whatever may be the input signal applied, the gate's DC voltage is not going to change at all in the fixed bias configuration now, because of the power supply that is applied as VGG at the gate. Now, that VGG can be simply represented in this curve as a vertical line. See, it can be simply represented as a vertical line here. VGSQ is minus VGG, that minus VGG is a fixed value. So, we plot a transfer curve as per the graphical method by using those 4 points. Then we draw this line, vertical line, which is corresponding to the value of VGG. Wherever this line cuts the transfer curve, and when we extend it toward the y-axis, we get the drain current quiescent point value. Now, when we get the drain current quiescent point value, we can easily apply the KVL at the output side, and we can find out VDS as well. So, this way we can arrive at the Q point. This is the graphical analysis. In fact, the graphical analysis is slightly easier compared to mathematical analysis, because you don't have to worry about all other equations. You only have to find out the transfer curve, then you have to apply this line which is corresponding to VGG wherever it crosses, that itself is IDQ. Why is it so? Because x-axis itself is the gate to source voltage and y-axis itself is the drain current. So, the curve itself is a transfer curve. Now, in the x-axis itself we have a gate supply. That gate supply, wherever it cuts the transfer curve, correspondingly we have the output current. This is a graphical analysis. So, at any point on the vertical line, the level of VGS is minus VGG because it is fixed. The point where the two curves intersect is commonly referred to as the quiescent or operating point. Now, let us solve this exercise. I will not tell you to solve this, I only will solve it because it is the first exercise. This is the circuit given. where Rg is given as 1 mega ohms, VGG is given as minus 2 volts, IDSS is given as 10 milliamperes, pinch off voltage is given as minus 8 volts, and VDD is given as 16 volts, and RD is given as 2 kilo ohms. We can go for two approaches now. We can go for mathematical approach also, we can go for graphical approach also. Both are easy in the case of fixed bias circuit. So let us see how to solve this. He is asking us to solve for VGSQ, get to source voltage at the quiescent point. That is obvious here now. As there is no current flowing through 1 mega ohms, whatever is the voltage applied at the gate itself is the quiescent voltage at the input side. So directly VGSQ is nothing but minus 2 volts because there is no gate current. We have to find out IDQ. IDQ we have to find out mathematically later on. Let us see how to solve. VDS we have to find out. VD, drain voltage we have to find out. Drain voltage is same as VDS because source is now grounded. VG we have to find out. VG is nothing but VGG as source is grounded, right? VS we have to find out. VSC is nothing but 0 volts as source is grounded. That way you can ignore the last three and the first one. They are obvious. A, D, E, F. They are obvious. Only thing is you have to find out now IDQ and VDS. Let us see how to find out IDQ and VDS using mathematical and graphical approaches. Now the mathematical approach. VGSQ is minus VGG is minus 2 volts. Apply the Shockley's equation. IDQ is IDSS into 1 minus VGS by VP whole squared. IDSS is given 10 milliampere. VGS is given minus 2 volts. So 1 minus of 2 by 8 whole squared, we get 5.625 milliampere. Okay, we get IDQ as 5.625 milliampere. Once you get this IDQ as 5.625 milliampere, it is easy now. We can simply apply KVL at the output side. 16 volts equals 5.625 milli into 2 kilo ohms minus VDS. Our VDS is nothing but VDD minus IDRD. 16 volts minus 5.625 milli into 2 kilo. That is 16 minus 11.25 volts is 4.75 volts. This is VDS. Other three things are obvious as I told you earlier. VD is VDS itself, VG is VGS itself, VS is 0 volts. Now this is the mathematical approach. Remember this value, we got IDQ equals 5.625 milliampere using the Shockley's equation. And we got VDS equals 4.75 volts. Now let us see how to solve it graphically. We have to use those 4 points to plot the transfer curve, and then we should have a vertical line for the gate voltage. Okay, the graphical approach now. In the graphical approach, we already have this curve. IDSS is 10 milliampere is given. VP is minus 8 volts is given here, right? See, IDSS is 10 milliampere, VP is minus 8 volts is given here. And the curve is plotted by using the other 2 points. IDSS by 4 is 2.5 milliampere, that is corresponding to VP by 2. See, this we already know, corresponding to minus 4 volts, IDSS by 4 is 2.5 milliampere. And when VGS is 0.3, 8 into 3, 2.4 volts, corresponding to around 2.4 volts. We can identify one more point here, that will be 5 milliampere here. 5 milliampere, IDSS by 2, corresponding to that we can have 2.4 volts. But here they are not distinctly shown. They are not distinctly shown because it is assumed that we already have plotted this transfer curve as we had that exercise earlier. Now we have this vertical line which is corresponding to VGSQ is minus 2 volts. Now this minus 2 volts line is cutting this transfer curve at around 5.6 milliampere approximately. Now in the exam, when such exercises are asked, you will have graph sheet in the answer booklet and you will have to manually plot the graph, plot the transfer curve in that graph sheet, and you have to manually find out. When you manually find out, there can be slight errors anywhere. all of you may not be able to work exactly in the same fashion when you manually do it. There can be slight errors, but it doesn't matter because those errors are also ignored in this exercise. You can see earlier we got 5.625 milliampere when we solved it mathematically, but here we are getting the value of 5.6 milliampere. Using a graphical method, it is not possible to go beyond single decimal point for accuracy. Actually, through the graphical method, deducing as exactly 5.6 milliamperes also is not really very easy. But in the graph sheet, you will have lines for each millimeter, right? Between 1 centimeter, there are now 10 divisions, right? Based on that each division, here the author has given it as 5.6 milliampere without showing the graph sheet here. Now, using the graphical approach, we got IDQ equals 5.6 milliampere. Correspondingly, we can apply the KVL now. So, VGSQ is minus VGG minus 2 volts is already known. IDQ we got is 5.6 milliampere. Now, VDS is VDD minus IDRD. Substituting the same values, we get VDS equals 4.8 volts. In the mathematical approach, it was 4.75 volts. So, there is a small error, 0.05 volts error, but that can always be ignored. VD is nothing but 4.8 volts, VG is nothing but VGS minus 2 volts, and VS equals 0 volts. So this way we have solved one exercise for a fixed bias circuitry using mathematical approach as well as graphical approach, and you can see as well, or it is evident that the graphical approach not really very much accurate when compared to the mathematical approach. But the graphical approach is easier to use when compared to the mathematical approach. Now in the fixed bias circuit, you may see that both are one and the same. We use the Shockley's equation directly and we use the graphical approach also directly. In the fixed bias, it is not difficult at all. But we are not going to use the fixed bias as such. We are going to go for other configurations. And you already know the reasons why we go for other configurations, isn't it? For the stability of the Q point, as far as the fixed bias is concerned, its stability is questionable. That is when we go for self-bias and voltage divider bias, even in JFET. Now, those exercises we will see in the next class. Until then, take care and goodbye.